her on, and she falls once, and it's like, oh, and they're like, okay, well, maybe she can still save her pride. And then she kind of like keeps making mistakes, and so like the energy is like, we're trying really hard to like keep you up by continuing to clap for everything. And so finally she lands a jump, and they're like, yes, and they all start cheering, and she tries to add another jump to the combination and then promptly falls immediately. So you get this like huge story, like, finally we can clap. Oh. And like at one point she's like, and like the one point where she literally just falls down while she's skating, like she's not even doing anything, she's just moving, and she falls, and the commentator's like, poor thing, she's exhausted. And then like you could see like at one point like the performance seems to be going on forever, and then at one point the music changes, so she's got to go into like her last section, but you can see in her face like exactly what I'm feeling, like, oh my god, this performance is still going, and her face is like as she has to go into the next moment. It's hysterical. It's one of the funniest things. It's such schadenfreude. I can't help it. I'm so sorry. But that is what I literally just watched before we started recording.
Hello, everyone.
Hi. I didn't realize you'd even press the button. I thought you were waiting.
We're talking about ice skating. Hello, everyone. Happy Monday.
Aww.
I just got back from SeaWorld with my nephew, who is currently staring at me through the window. So I'm a little exhausted. We had a fun time, but it was the most activity I've had in like a year, maybe. So it was a lot, but happy to be here. Happy Monday. Welcome to the Book Club for Movies. It's Man Crush Monday. We will be talking about actor Jose Ferrer as the main topic. But before that, on Friday, we did the first of a few double features we were going to do for our Oscar month. Fridays focused on cinematography, and we had two films, both of them winners for Best Cinematography. Let's talk about Master and Commander first, because I'm sure Samir doesn't want to talk about it too much, so we'll just throw it in there. But this cinematographer was Russell Boyd, and I was laughing because on Friday I was saying I couldn't really find a lot of information about him except that he's like Australian. He's an Australian cinematographer, and I actually watched his acceptance speech, and the first thing he says is he's like, I have an Australian accent. I was like, even he's just like, I'm Australian. That's it. That's all. He like.
I didn't understand why that was necessary to tell people. I'm like, when you start talking, we'll figure it out.
He was just like awkward and cute, and he's like, he'd never been nominated before. It was his first nomination, first win, and it's a lot of pressure to be up there. But okay, here's the gist of this movie. I love this movie. Samir does not love this movie. I think that this is a. Sure, maybe it's not historically accurate in possibly any sense of it, but I liked just the telling of being on this type of ship for so many months. You kind of didn't know what was going to happen of like, okay, are we going to battle today, or are we just going to sit here in the middle of the ocean for a few days because we have no wind? And that's kind of how the movie went too. This is one of two Russell Crowe, Paul Bettany movies we will be seeing this month. The other one being Beautiful Mind that we will watch in a few weeks. But of course the cinematography was, I thought, pretty amazing. How many different types of shots can you get of a ship in the ocean? And it turns out a lot, lots of variation.
Well, when you're on it for that long, I'm sure like sailors probably look at things and see different images arise. Somebody who maybe is a first time on a boat, you'll see a lot of other, like the ropes and the sails. And, I thought they captured all the details of this boat really well. I learned that it was filmed in the same pool in Baja, California, where they filmed Titanic.
Yeah.
Because I was really impressed by the ship itself. I was like, this is not just a CGI ship. It's like a legit,
an actual
like
ship.
Old school, sailboat. So the battle scenes were very ferocious. I usually don't like watching movies with a lot of battle scenes just because the way the movies are made, almost all of them, when you're in a battle scene, you're kind of automatically on the side of whoever the hero of the story is, or your main identifying figure in the story. So I'm like, I'm not really like on the side of British ships that are basically plundering the earth and trying to control the whole planet at this point in history. So I was like, I'm not really rooting for them in these battles. So that was a problem for me in terms of just going along with the story. But I do think that image-wise, it was, it captures what life on the sea is like, what life on a boat is like. It captures the images around it really well. It finds room for some really cool artistic shots. It was just unfortunate for me that the story felt very lacking because you're not really able to follow along with who's doing what for what reason, or even all the time exactly where they are. Some of that is part of the story. Is like, hey, we're at sea. Like if I'm a sailor, I don't exactly know where I am. So it's hard to tell if there's like that's part of them trying to tell that story, or if the script itself is just kind of a little too loosey-goosey, and it's like, we're just going to delve into the details because it's super detail-oriented in throughout the film, so you see a lot of interesting images related to the situation, but I didn't feel them feed into a larger story very much. It was sort of more of a sensory experience of being there, which was still really cool. Like, a battle scene will still raise your adrenaline. It doesn't matter who you are. The gore of it, I think we were surprised, like, they're doing surgeries, they're cutting off an arm, he's removing a bullet from himself, like there's like interesting things like that. I feel like they're like, let's jazz up this story. What are some horrors we can put in here that we haven't shown before in some of these movies? And I do feel like it had a more realistic feel to it. The color palette was muted. It wasn't like overdone to like the beauty of the sea. Look at that. It's like, no, it's like there's mist, there's fog, there's, like a lot of, sort of low grays and blues throughout. So I enjoyed those kind of things. The movie as a whole, not so much.
I have to sneeze.
Bless you.
Thank you. I thought it really showed some of the brutal sides of being on a ship like this, like having to make those tough decisions, and like that one guy is thrown overboard and they have to basically cut him loose, or like the whole ship could go down, and they have to make that decision, like,
that was sad.
He's gonna drown. I really enjoyed this movie. This has always been a family favorite of mine. If you didn't see it, this is available on Hulu and Prime right now. See for yourself. Again, it won 2 Oscars. The only 2 Oscars that Return of the King did not win that year went to Magnificent Emmy.
The Oscars really liked Peter Weir that year. They wanted to give him something because he doesn't make movies that often. Makes sense. For me, the real winner of the 2 movies of the double feature, the real winner for me was definitely, exactly. Kai, I was thinking the same thing, changing the enemy to the French. It made, so when I looked up the story later, because I was like hoping like, okay, well, let me look up this story and see if there's something that will make this movie's script interesting to me in some way, because it was really leaving me high and dry, which is where I'm sure a sailor would prefer to be if they're like in a battle on the sea. But maybe not. That's high and dry is usually a bad thing. But I was like, okay, well, what's the story? Then I started looking up the history, and it just sort of kept unraveling more and more for me. But this movie, the other movie that we watched for the black and white cinematography, even though it has flashes of color in it, it's still won black and white cinematography. This movie is the real winner of the weekend for me.
I hadn't seen this before, and I definitely loved it. And again, if anyone wanted to do some extra credit and watch another movie by the same cinematographer, Harry Stradling, you could have watched Easter Parade, which also has Peter Lawford in both of those movies.
Crazy.
Peter Lawford looks so young in this movie. And then Easter Parade's only like 3 years later, I think. And it was amazing how, I don't know, I guess I'm just more used to seeing him in that. He just looked especially young in this. I really, really enjoyed watching this. I love just the overall feeling of it, how sinister it was at times, and certainly the cinematography was really, really great. And Yeah, certainly. I mean, there are, I think, only two moments in this where they will cut to this horrible painting that's starting to decay. Or actually, at first they show when it looks all perfect, but it is in color all of a
Mhm.
sudden. And I
Yeah,
don't
it's
know.
like
And that's something that I think is kind of overdone now. Of like, ooh, we're gonna have like a little pop of color and stuff. I remember this was back in the '40s. I don't know how many people were really taking advantage of combining that black and white and color aspect of it. So at the time, I'm sure this was pretty groundbreaking to even think of doing that.
well, it probably had that effect.
Yeah.
Like it really kind of like whoa, like it makes you pay attention to it
Mhm.
in a way. But it's also like the first time you see the painting when it's done, when it's first
Yeah.
done. You see it. So you see it in color then, and the rest of the time you're still seeing it in black and white. And then when you see it for the first time again, once it's like you see it revealed, basically reborn as
Hmm.
the physical avatar of his
Hmm.
avarice and soullessness, basically. And that's when it pops up in color again, and you're like, oh my god! Like at first glance, for a second, you're like, oh, that's horrible. That's not so bad. But then if you paused that image and just looked at that image for a while, so many grotesque details start coming
Hmm.
out of it, and you just keep noticing more and more until I literally can't look at it for too long because it's really grotesque. I was very impressed by that, but also just the
Yeah, it's
look
kind of
of
a
the
headache
whole
to look at.
film like has this, like you said, you use the word sinister, which is the perfect description, because that the unnatural gleam of everything, the look
Mhm.
of the gas lamps reflected in these shiny there's competing patterns of like stripes and checkers and window panes and things like that are all sort of have this unnatural kind of almost sinister evil gleam to it. In that house is just one of the best sets I've
Yeah.
ever seen in a movie. Like captured so at some points you'll if you those are images where the rest of the movie is kind of like that portrait where if you pause it you notice more and more things in it. Like this cinematographer was like at the top of his game because there are moments where if you really look at like the foreground and background is kept so well in focus. I was constantly blown away by that, but I felt like the look of the film really captured the competing dualities and contrasts of the source material where you have purity and innocence and corruption and art and morality and also George Sanders is just like one of those actors who is like born to be in an Oscar Wilde adaptation. Like he
Yeah.
is just made to say those words and make them feel like they're coming from a character that actually exists. Like I can't imagine anybody else saying those lines. The constant like you epigrams that are basically like sort of philosophical palindromes that are the same backwards and forwards but totally different. Like I just think this movie is amazing. I watched it twice this weekend actually because I was like, did I not did I am I going overboard with this movie and like let me see if it stands up to a second
And I
viewing, and
too
I
am
did, and it was
impressed.
blown away.
Yeah, I really, really enjoyed it. Yeah, I thought it was great. This could be one that I end up adding to my permanent collection.
I'm gonna do
Uh,
the same thing. I can't get that song out of my head either.
oh, the yellow bird.
Little yellow bird.
Oh yeah, and Angela Lansbury, she was like 20 years old in this movie.
Oh my gosh, she looks so good in
I
this
know,
movie. I'm
it's
just like,
just like
it's the first time I've seen her in an old movie
angelic
where she
face.
doesn't look old as a young person. She just looked so fresh faced and beautiful. She's like the perfect embodiment of that character. Um,
Mhm.
there are some things in the movie where like they would edit out. I'm sure this is because of the production code where they had to sort of edit out explicit lines that even though they weren't overtly telling you that some of these characters are gay, like, a lot of those lines that make very strongly inferred are kind of cut out of the film, but I feel like they still deliver. You get the idea that like, okay, these men, it's not just that they're buddies. There's like something more going on
Yeah.
between them, but it's very apparent in the novel. Um, they also kind of sidestep the fact that Dorian Gray is going to opium dens and like they kind of make it seem like he's just going to like low down dives bar. I'm like, that looks like the brown jug. in SF. Like that doesn't look like, that's, but of course you get lots of things at that
Yeah,
bar
I
as
was like,
well,
I've
as I
seen
found
opium
out.
campaign.
But I'm like, okay, this is supposed to be like, like the body is physically rotting too, but it's only rotting in the painting because his physical body is just impervious to all these things, which is an interesting concept in itself. It's like, if you never had consequences for anything you did, like how long would it be before you could down a whole bottle of tequila in an hour, and that it wouldn't do anything to your body because it would all happen to the painting. You know what I mean? Like, people who have impulse control problems will be damned if they had this portrait that aged for them, or for all the physical ailments that their body should be feeling because of the way they live their life. So it's like, imagine if every time you had a hard night of drinking, you looked at the picture of yourself and your face was fine, but the picture on your nightstand looks more wrinkled and haggard, and you can't change that back. It's like only a whole lot more things. I just love I thought they did this concept so well in this movie. I'm definitely going to be buying this. And I cannot wait to see this on a movie screen, because imagine when you see this on a movie screen, the cinematography is going to like blow you away even more, just because there's so many things buried in every frame that you can pick out. Like, there's one moment at which they walk into a room with the crazy gas lamp chandelier, and you see it perfectly reflected in this mirror by the mantle. Like, every single item in this film somehow stands out on its own and melts in to this insane kind of web that his home becomes. Like, don't you just like, that's wealth, man.
I also
it's
love
rare when you see wealth depicted
statue.
in an artistically interesting way.
I love the cat statue. It reminded me of Lydia.
I want that cat statue. But you can't be careful the wishes you make.
Very true. Very true. Well, if you didn't see a picture of Dorian Gray, this is the 1945 version. It is available to rent right now. Really, really great. Again, Oscar winner. It's nominated for a few Oscars, but check it out. Please check it out if you didn't see it. Let's do our little name that movie really quick before we move on to Jose Ferrer. Now, I didn't know this first one. I actually don't think I've seen this one. So if you don't get it, no pressure. All right, here we go. So again, if you know what this movie is, go ahead and type it in the comments. So this says, Nick, I'm going away with Frank. I love him. Cora. So if you know what this is, go ahead and type it in the comments.
Somebody must know. They really want you to know about Twin Oaks.
Grand jury indicts Chambers a snare. No, it's not diner. Do you know what it is, Samir?
I don't know.
Let's try
Go back to
the
last two again.
So we've got that, the hand falling.
Oh, it's not coming to me today.
Yeah, and I didn't know this one. I'm just going to go ahead and say this one is The Postman Always Rings Twice.
Ah.
Yeah, I didn't know
Chambers.
that one either. This one will be easier. All right, here we go. Last one for today. Samir knows this one because I've shown this one to him because I knew he would get it instantly.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, like the first, that one should give it away to everybody. That one also should give it away to everybody if you've seen this movie.
All right, Jacob got it. North
Jacob
by
got
Northwest. Good job, Jacob. Yeah, this was an easier one. One of our favorites. All righty. Thank you for
One of the
playing.
all-time
and we will,
great
play
films.
again tomorrow. All right, let's move on to Mr. Jose Ferrer. Now, Jose Ferrer is the only Latino actor to have won Best Actor at the Oscars. He was the first, and he has been the only one since then, which is sad. I mean, wow. I know there's always like the Oscars so white and everything, but only one Latino actor. There's been a couple nominated, but only one has won, and that is Jose Ferrer, and we are going to be watching his Oscar-nominated film, or Oscar-winning film, I should say. He was born in Puerto Rico on January 8th, 1912. Eventually, he got involved in I'm sorry. His family moved to the U.S., moved to New York in 1914. In 1933, he got his bachelor's degree in architecture at Princeton. He then got involved in theater and was pretty heavily involved in that. He made his Broadway debut in 1935. He directed a few productions. He eventually also directed a few films as well. He originated, I'm pretty sure he originated. Oh, wait, maybe he didn't originate. Okay. He played Cyrano de Bergerac on Broadway in 1946, and he ended up winning a Tony Award for it. And of course, that is the role that he later brought back in the film version and then won Best Actor for that. So that was his role, to be sure. And that was after he'd already made a few films before Cyrano de Bergerac, which came out in 1950. But it was really after that that he started to be in some bigger films. My nephew's very distracting. Yeah, but he's gone on to be in some really other big films. I think he had a small part in Lawrence of Arabia. Other things he directed were Return to Peyton Place. He directed State Fair? I didn't know that he directed that. Wow. That's a Rodgers and Hammerstein's musical that I actually really like. Wow. In the 80s, he was in Dune. That's probably one of his other bigger roles. He had over 120 acting credits. He died in 1992 at age 80. And also his children, many of them were actors as well, including one actor who his name is escaping me right now, but he actually is like I recognize him. I'm like, oh, I know who that actor is. He had quite the love life. He was married several times, including to Rosemary Clooney, who they actually got married twice. They got divorced, and 3 years later got back together, and then 3 years later divorced again. Yeah, but
I just can't quit you.
Yeah, they tried it again. But he's still, I think that's just like his big legacy is the only Latin Latino actor to have won Best Actor. What do you know about
Yeah,
him?
and like how many have been even nominated before and since, like
not a lot. I mean, I know recently, Antonio Banderas was nominated. Yeah, wow, he did do State Fair. This is a different State Fair. Never mind. Okay, I have not seen this
which one are you thinking of?
No, I'm thinking of like the Rodgers and Hammerstein musical, but maybe this was a remake? Did they remake that movie? That's crazy.
It's probably more than one movie with that name.
Yeah, but he directed 7 films from 1955 to 1962. He also wrote one of the films called The Great Man, which he also starred in. But yeah, definitely someone who's had a lasting impact on the world of film, and I'm sure is an inspiration to actors, particularly Latino actors out there. But let's talk a little bit about this movie. Serenade de Bergerac. This came out in 1950. The charismatic swordsman poet helps another woo the woman he loves in a straightforward version of the play. That's a great plot.
That's kind of
this was
lacking. Like, why not give us a description of the story? I know somebody else wrote it, but
yeah, they're like it's like the play. It's like the play. So if you know the play, you're gonna know what the movie is. That's
it's
what
a great tagline for the poster. It's like the play.
Yeah, see the play.
At least the poster says the most loved of all love stories.
Yeah, like that's still not helping us here. This was nominated for one Oscar and won one Oscar, and that was for Best Actor. He also won a Golden Globe for this. It did win Best Cinematography at the Golden Globes, so it got more Golden Globes.
Interesting. So maybe it'll be pretty to look at too. Jacob, the first version I saw this was Steve Martin. The one called Roxanne, it's not called Cyrano de Bergerac.
Yes, that is based on this, but this would probably be the more. I mean, it's like the play. If you've seen the play, I don't know what else.
Do you know the play, Amy?
I have not. I've seen scenes from the play. I remember in high school, this was always like a popular monologue option for guys to do.
But you know what the basic story is, like more than what they say.
He's got a big nose.
Well, that's the story. Big nose. Nothing more to see here. It's just about somebody with a big nose.
That's it. That's the whole plot here. I am looking forward to seeing this. This is available on Prime.
I always reacted well to this story. I feel like anybody who's felt like they're not good enough for the person that they have a crush on, or the person they want to woo, I feel like everybody kind of responds to that. Like you want to see him break out of that sort of self-critical like mode where he just sees himself as inherently unworthy and unattractive because of one trait that is so outsized that you can't ignore it. So like, I have never seen this on the stage. I've only ever read it. So this will be the, first time watching the story all the way through, as opposed to just reading chapters and talking about it in a literature class or reading acts of it. That's how I think a lot of us have really interacted with this story. And let's see. And of course, Roxanne, I think it's a shame that that's the only version of it that I think most American audiences really have watched now. They've kind of forgotten that this Oscar-winning version's been out there the whole time. So we're going to fix that today.
I'm excited to watch it. Again, this is available on Prime. So check it out there. Tomorrow is Director Tuesday, and we are going to be talking about last year's Oscar winner for Best Director, Mr. Bong Joon-ho, and his Oscar-winning film of multiple Oscars, Parasite. So if you still haven't seen that movie for some reason, tomorrow will be your chance. Check out our Patreon. Check out Cyrano de Bergerac, again available on Prime. I think there are a couple versions of it, so make sure you watch the one from 1955 1950 with Jose Ferrer, since that was our topic for today. Don't watch another one. Just watch this. Check out our Patreon. Sorry. I went to SeaWorld today, so I'm a little like it's a long day being outside in the sun, considering
I had a long day of work.
Oh boy. But thank you guys for watching today. I'll be more with it tomorrow. Hope you enjoy watching Cyrano, and we'll see you guys tomorrow for our discussion after the movie and moving on to all things Parasite.
Can't wait.
Can't wait.